Welcome to part 2 of the tutorial on painting winter tiger stripe camo on towel vehicles. The winter striping is done. Now it's time to move on to all of the control panels, the gems, the black highlighting, the washing, that sort of thing. And then at the end I'll work on the drones. The next step is simply to do in all the little grooves a brown wash. So just take a fine brush and lay that in there, just because there's a little grime in all of those things. So I'll come back when I have done that. Okay, so all of the little the brown wash is done. Just makes it look a little worn, even though these are, supposed to be fresher troops. No vehicle is without any kind of wear. The next step is just to put in all of the black. So here in the vents, here in the back, around the band. Around these, and here on the bottom. So once I get all of that black done, and for here, very similar. Once I get all that done, I will be back for the next step. Alright, so the black has all been laid. It's pretty simple. On the devilfish, it's just the vents on the top, the weapon, of course. I do the feet and the vents on the bottom. On the actual jet vents themselves, I just do the little rounds, the front. It's really up to you, however you want to do it. The only tricky part is on the Piranhas. It would be much better to do it without the pilots in there, but since I got these off of eBay as a rehab models, don't have that choice. If you get paint on the little guys, don't worry too much about it, because once you paint them up, that'll get covered up, and otherwise you just touch it up with some white. Again, don't forget the little vents on the side. There's always stuff on the bottom to look at. And then that just leaves the next step, which are put the first coat of blue on all the little gems. Then I do a blue and white mix. Don't know if you can see it here. And then I do just a dead white dot. And then the last step after that for these will be to put a little bit of the hard coat on it, the gloss varnish. And any little things that you want to hit with that blue, light blue, is fine. Alright, so when we get the blue done, don't forget the little cockpit visor here. But once I get the blue done, I will come back and show you how that looks. Okay, so I finished putting on the first coat of the ice blue on all of the little areas that would be kind of lit up, or a gem, or any of that sort of thing. Next step is to actually put in a mix of gray or white and the blue to come up with this little lighter blue area. Let me see if I can get it focused. I generally do about a third of it, and then after that, just a little spot of white. It just gives it a little sort of reflection, like the sun or light is shining off of it. So I'm going to do those next two steps. I'm going to just use this gray-white because it was laying out there. That would be an additional color. You can use the Snow White from original, so I'm not dropping a new color on you here. And then the ice blue. So it's just make it a lighter ice blue with the white. About a third, a real light coat. So put in a little flow improver, a little water or something. Keep it a thin coat. And then one little spot of white. Okay, so I've gone through, I've done a little bit of a light. It was a 1-to-1 mix of a white and the ice blue, and then just a little dot of white. I've done that on the Piranhas and on the two devilfish. Next up is really just gloss varnish. I just have an old thing of hard coat to put it on these so that you get that little bit of shine. It does actually make a pretty huge difference. I just do it straight out of the bottle here, because this is not anything I have to be very neat with. So it's just, I glob a lot on, actually, just to keep it good and shiny. The only thing is you have to be careful not to get it on the non-shiny parts, the parts you don't want to be shiny. I'm out in my garage and the light's not super right now, but put it on this side, make sure I get it on the other side too. So I'll go back and do that. One thing not to forget are the windshields. Easy to forget to paint those up, and then you'll come in afterwards and say, oops. Alright, so I'll get these done, and then that is basically the end of the devilfish. They'll be pretty much done except for going back and doing a little bit of touch-ups on anywhere you had stray paint. And then you can put in the metal, you know, all the little bits, the bolts and everything. My son wanted them all to be painted over in the camo pattern, so that's what I'm doing. I'll come back and do this this piece on the next round when I do the next round of vehicles. That is really basically it for the devilfish. There's a lot more detail work on the piranhas, and I'll get to that here in the next segment. So moving on to the piranhas, there's a lot more detail on the piranhas than there are on the devilfish. But the next step I'll do is I'll start working on the men inside. I use Great Coat Gray from Privateer Press. The lid cracked, so I transferred it to a bottle, put a little ball bearing in there. So I'll do all of the cloth bits with the Great Coat Gray, and then I'll highlight it up. Then we'll start working about all the details in the cockpit. I did a few with the light blue as I went along, and then these will require some touch-ups, especially right around the guns. I think the other one has a couple of bad gun issues. Didn't worry about the black on the arms because I knew I was covering that up. These will also require some drones, and again I'll do those at the end. So the next step, onto the arms. Right, so getting close to finishing up now. Put in some blue here, touched up the ice blue on the chest plates, put in gray for the cloth with a little bit of a light gray highlight. Next, I'm going to go ahead and do a brown wash just like I did with the rest of the vehicle in all of those grooves. Go ahead and fill in all of the display panel bits, and that will pretty much finish up the piranha, and then I'll start working on the drones. Okay, the piranha are basically done. As I said before, it's much easier to do all the cockpit stuff with the guys out, but if you buy your models off of eBay, get them from a friend, whatever, they're already built, you just got to deal with it. Went in, I put in all of the little control panel pieces. I just did some random colors. There was no real rhyme or reason for anything. Did some touch up on the whites where strayed, put in the brown wash in all the grooves. Don't forget to get them down in the pants. Then as you can see, the black that was on the arms doesn't really matter. I touched up a couple of the areas of the white where the black had strayed onto, or where you know, a stray brush with the wash, you can go in and touch that up with the white. That is basically it now for the piranha. What is left are the drones. I will do the drones as part of this, and I will probably do just a standalone painting the camo on the drone piece as well. That might not be quite as abbreviated, but I'll see what kind of time I have. So that's basically it. Now we're moving on to the drones. Almost finished. Alright, almost done. The last part is to get the drones done. As you can see, they were primed white, and then I painted them snow white when I did the 4 vehicles. The original plan was to leave this white inside and just do the edges like I do with my infantry troops. That looked really good with the damaged, torn up vehicles. Does not look so good. Conceptualize that you've got a Space Wolves gray stripe around there. Still just does not look good with these clean vehicles. So I did a test camo last night. I think it looks pretty good. I did it just in in an afternoon. Only delays, I was waiting for the paint to dry. So it's really simple. If you don't like the camo inside, it's easy. That's the last step, so not a problem. It does add one more paint color to do the drones. All the other colors have been used. I haven't glued this one on. It was off. Is a gold color for the little seal there, but otherwise it's just the white that it's already painted, the ghost white or ghost gray depending on what brand you use, the Space Wolves gray, some black, the brown wash, and then the Privateer Press gray we used. I just blanked on the name of it. And I'll go through it. The first step is to paint the bottoms black. That's probably it's kind of a pain. You'll have to dilute it down a little bit to get down into all the little crevices. It's actually pretty easy if you don't have the guns glued on. Most of these had the guns already glued on. A couple of them don't. So let me get that black done, and then I'll come back. Okay, the first part is done. I used the same brush I used for the hard coat, the gloss varnish, to get down into all of the spaces here. Then I came back with a fine-tipped brush to do the gun ports, the gun barrels, the little sides, and then to do the exhaust ports on the antenna. After that, came through with the greatcoat gray and did the underside piece here. And then that is basically step 1 and 2 of getting these done. The next few steps are using the Space Wolf gray around the top piece and the edges, as well as this little piece here if you want to, or you can use the ice blue that's used on the vehicle, or whatever you use to accent your soldiers. Then the next piece after that is to put in the gold here, and then step 3 of the next 3 is to take brown wash and put it into all the grooves, just like with the vehicles. Once those 3 steps are done, we'll come back and do the actual tiger stripe camoing, and then that will complete the drones. So all the preliminary painting is done on the drones. The Space Wolves gray on the rim, the gold on the weapons, and then the brown wash in all of the crevices. So the next step is to do the first layer. So just like with the main vehicle, you lay down your stencils where you want it to remain white. For this one, you need to think about where you would put it, because what colors do you want abutting up against the Space Wolves gray sides, and then it's a much smaller surface area, so you might want to use thinner stencils. And the only other piece is to make sure that they go off of the white interior, unless you want something specific as a pattern in there, so that you don't have a big straight line. I think I'm going to try and have this one with a lot more of the dark blue and a little bit less of the light blue, but we'll see how it turns out. So once you get these on, then the next step is really just doing the ghost white for the first layer. I'm not going to thin out the paints much, or at all really, and then it's just being careful not to get it onto the brown wash. In some ways this is even a little easier than the airbrush, because you don't have to tape the edges, and you have a little bit more control over where things go. On the other hand, it's not as fast, but for such a small area, it really doesn't matter. First coat of paint is dry, so it's time to put on the second round of stencils. I may have put too much on this first round. There's going to be a lot of white on this one, but let's see, what can we do here? I'm going to put that there. Another. This may end up a little more interesting, but I think I'll just leave it like that. So next, just the space wheel is gray. Again, don't need a whole lot. And then it's just cover it all over again. Again, the only thing really is to be careful not to go over the brown wash. And you can always touch up the colors in the white, the ghostly white, and the Space Wolves gray later. A little tougher to do the brown wash, though it is possible. So let me finish this up. I'm going to let this dry completely. I'll probably just leave it overnight to make sure it's good and dry, because if you don't, you can pull some of the paint off as you pull the stickers off. I'll keep calling them stickers, stencils. So let me, I'll just finish this up, put another quick coat since I thinned this a little more than usual, and I'll be back when it's dry. Alright, so the paint has dried for a day or two. Time to peel off the stencils. I'm going to put them back on here. Maybe I could use them again. And the only thing that's really of any import in doing the peeling off is just to make sure you peel them off in order. It gets a little hard if you try to peel one that's under another one. There you have it. This is one done. I need to do all of the rest now, and then that will complete the first 4 vehicles. So here's the completed project. 2 devilfish, the drones, and the Piranha. I went ahead and finished up the captain of the devilfish there, and so there you have it. Tiger striped winter themed camo on Tau vehicles.